So Aristotle would say you have a quality called practical wisdom or phronesis. Phronesis is a Greek word which, unfortunately, if you talk about Aristotle, you need to learn it, because it is a word for which, a concept for which no word exists in English. No good word. You can say practical wisdom, but this doesn't sound quite right. There's a second word for Aristotle, eudaimonia. We will see it later. This also you need to learn in English as a Greek word, because there is no good translation. So there are these two words which are normally not translated. So even in books or papers about Aristotle, you will find the papers written in English, but you will find the Greek words in it, because these are not easily translatable. Okay, so phronesis, practical wisdom. What is phronesis? Phronesis is the ability to judge what is the right amount of every virtue in every particular situation. Having practical wisdom then means two things. It means that you know the means to certain good ends, and that you know how much particular ends are worth. What does this mean? What does this mean? The right amount of virtue in every particular situation. So let's say the example before. I want to save somebody from a burning house. If I have practical wisdom, if I have phronesis, I will be able to judge my ability correctly. I will know the means to the end of saving the person in the burning house. I will know how to do it successfully. Or I will understand that I don't know how to do it, and that the proper means to this good end is not me going in, but calling the fire department with my phone. So whether I should call or whether I should jump into the burning house is knowing about the means to certain good ends, the appropriate means, the means that are likely to bring about the result that I want, the good result. But also another thing, the wise person not only knows the means to good ends, he also knows how much particular ends are worth. Because often people pursue wrong ends. I might think I have to jump into this house in order to save my book that I'm reading. Something, extreme now, but let's assume I'm reading a book, very suspenseful book, and now thriller. And now I want to jump into the burning house in order to save the thriller so that I can keep reading. So, okay, I admit this is a stupid example, but you get the idea. And the wise man would not only know whether I can get the book or not, and what do I need in order to save the book, but the point of being wise is to also recognize that saving this book is not worth it. I can always go and buy another copy. So you have to know how much particular ends are worth. Is this book worth calling the fire department for? Is this the book worth going in and risking being killed in the fire? And obviously it's not, right? But there are some, not all cases are like this, like the book. For example, there could be a dog in there. My dog is in danger of burning. Is my dog worth it, or is my dog not worth saving? Now, if you love dogs, perhaps you will say, yes, my dog is like my child, I have to jump in and save him. If you don't care much about dogs, you might say, okay, perhaps I can buy another dog, right? Or how many people do I have to risk in order to get the dog? If 3 firemen, if 5 firemen have to risk their lives in order to get the dog out, do I still think that the dog is worth it? So this is practical wisdom, right? I'm not saying that one answer is correct. I'm just saying that this is a kind of problem about which you would have to think if you have practical wisdom. Is the end worth it? And obviously, in some cases, we are clearly mistaken about the ends. Many of us are clearly mistaken and pursue the wrong ends. For example, many people pursue money in our society. In a capitalist society, they pursue wealth, material wealth, more than anything else. Although it is known that pursuing wealth exclusively will probably make you unhappy. So if we agree with Aristotle that happiness is the highest good in life, we will see this in a moment, then pursuing money, pursuing material wealth is actually not worth it. because it's not going to make you happy as you perhaps hope or envision initially. So then the wise man would say perhaps less wealth, but a better family life is more likely to improve my happiness. Okay, so this is what practical wisdom is. So now how do I acquire this practical wisdom? What do I have to do in order to become a person with phronesis? In order to see how this works, it's useful to take the example of a child. This is also an example Aristotle himself mentions. So let's say a 5-year-old child. Does a child have virtues? And obviously, yes, a child does have virtues. A child can be courageous, it can be honest, or it can be a liar, right? It can be a coward. Children have different virtues, but what makes a child different from a grown-up is the phronesis. The child may have virtues, but it doesn't have the ability to judge how much of every virtue is the right amount. So a child might be reckless. It might play at a windowsill and not be concerned with falling out, and therefore get in danger of falling out or even fall out because it has underestimated the danger. It didn't have enough phronesis to estimate correctly the means to the good end, or how much the end of playing at the windowsill is worth, and therefore it fell out of the window. Or a child might be typically, many jokes about children or many cute stories are about how rude children are to people, non-intentionally, right? The child would say how terrible your hairdo looks, instead of giving you a more soft, lie to make you feel good. So children do have virtues. Children want to be honest, they want to be courageous, or the opposite, but they do have some amount of virtue, but they don't have the ability to judge how much is right. So if we realize this, now we are coming closer to the answer. So we realize that the virtue, you need to have the right amount. Children don't have it, grown-ups have it. So can I always say, no, let's first ask, okay, so if grown-ups have it and children don't have it, so what is it? What makes you able to judge the right amount of virtue if you are a grown-up? What makes you able to know what the right amount is? And so what would you say? What is it? Think about it for a second. It's experience, right? Among other things, it's experience. So what makes you able to judge the right amount of virtue is experience. You have experience of life, which a child doesn't have, and this is why a child doesn't have it. Later, the child will make the experiences, will acquire phronesis. This experience makes it possible for you to know how much is the right amount of courage, how much is the right amount of honesty, and so on.